welcome. I'm here with Chief Master Sergeant Dan Kenemore. He's agreed to interview today for our Meet the Chief series. So I'd like to welcome him and thank him for joining us today. And to start things off, just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you came from, what you did prior to joining the Air Force.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. This is a really cool opportunity to reach out and interact with some of our fellow airmen across the career field, which has been really, really great. So thanks for the opportunity to be here. So where was I before the Air Force? I grew up just outside of Chicago, and I went to the University of Cincinnati for a year and studied music education. That really wasn't what I enjoyed doing. I spent a lot of time with the local classical radio station, working with the symphony and other classical studio projects, and I got really into recording and live audio. So I left the University of Cincinnati and I went to DePaul University, and they have a really good studio recording program. And I spent about a semester at DePaul University. And during that time, there was an audition opening for the Air Force for an audio engineer. And I thought, well, let's see if I can get this, because one of my professors at Cincinnati said his goal was to get me a job. You know, he wanted to make me the best musician I could be, but also to get me a job. And so he said, if a job comes up, you should always, performance is what you want to do, or audio is what you want to do. You should always try to apply for those jobs. So I applied for the job, and I ended up leaving school with just about a year and a half into my bachelor's and joined the Air Force. So I came in to Scott Air Force Base as an airman basic, one of the few without a degree, and have been in ever since. That was just over 21 years ago.
Wow. So how did you hear about the Air Force job? I mean, did you already see that as a career opportunity, or was that just something that kind of came out of the blue, or was it something that you sought out as, you know, wanting to serve, wanting to join?
Actually, that was something that I was very interested in. I remember when I was in high school, our high school band was invited to this Atlanta, Georgia band conference. And so we went, and, you know, we played, and there was a clinic and that kind of thing. But one of the evening concerts was with the Falconaires from the Air Force Academy Band. And I was like, man, that was really, really cool. You get to play music, you get to serve your country. I mean, I was all into short haircuts already anyway, so it made it easy. And I thought maybe that's something I'd like to do. So I remember they handed out CDs at that conference, and I took one home, and I thought, oh, this is really cool. This is something I would definitely be interested in doing. And then I remember the summer. There was a couple summers that I worked with a recording, or a live audio company rather, and we ended up providing the audio for the Midwest clinic for a couple years. When I was back out of school, I'd go work for the company in the winter as well, and that's what we did, the Midwest clinic. And the engineer that they hired to lead all the big band jazz groups that came and performed at the Midwest clinic was one of the sergeant majors at the Army Field Band. And he said, Dan, you know, you would do really, really well in a military band. Don't join the Army bands, join the Air Force bands. And so that is what I did. And so I knew that was something I was interested in. I enjoyed my experience with the audition. And ever since then, I've really, really enjoyed all the opportunities I've had. So it's been a really, really good fit for me.
So then you shipped off to basic. You went to Scott, you said was your first assignment. Tell me a little bit about where the Air Force sent you after that.
Sure. So I was at Scott for about 4 years, and then I won an audition with the Air Force Academy Band, and I went out there for 7 years. Had a great time, a lot of really good experiences, very interesting touring region, very interesting mission compared to the rest of the Air Force. But I was ready for something else. So after 7 years, I was able to come back to the regional bands, and through a good, it's all about network and timing really, but through a good network and timing, I was able to come back to Scott, which was close to my family. We're up in Chicago and my wife's from St. Louis, so that kind of worked out for a while our kids were really young. And we spent another 4 years here at Scott for the second time. And then I got promoted to senior master sergeant, and I rolled the dice. I said, I'm going to try something completely new. And I was hired as the director of education at the Kissling NCO Academy in Germany, which is the only NCO academy the Air Force has in Europe. And so I knew nothing about the professional military education world other than having attended. And honestly, when I attended, I wasn't all that interested in that career field, but Europe was really interesting to me. So I went there. Very, very challenging time, very, very eye-opening, and got to work with some unbelievably talented people from around the world, around the Air Force. One of my absolute favorite assignments, just experience-wise. I grew more in those 3 years than I think I have in the rest of my life.
Where in Germany is that? I'm familiar with Ramstein because the band there, but was it anywhere near there, or was it in a different region?
It was very near there. There's a whole bunch of installations up there in what they call the Kaiserslautern military community. So Ramstein's the big air base, but just down the road, which is where we were, it's on a very small installation called Capone Air Station, which is actually attached to Vogelway Air Station and Pulaski Barracks, which is an Army installation. They're all really interconnected. And so it's just down the road, maybe 10-minute drive away.
I was going to say Capone, Pulaski. It seems like Chicago almost followed you to Germany.
That's right. That's right. Capone was named after a chaplain, Emile Capone.
Okay.
So it's not the Al Capone. It's spelled differently too. Who was awarded the Medal of Honor. So it was a slightly unknown member of our Air Force heritage, but he is there.
That's cool. So you told me a little bit about your transition to senior master sergeant. Did you already know when you joined the Air Force that you wanted to shoot for chief? But where along in the process did you decide to go for chief, and why?
Oh, that's a good question. I really, really loved doing audio. I was an audio engineer. I loved traveling. I loved doing live sound. I loved the challenges. You know, in my time, I counted, it was about 1,500 events, gigs that I ran sound for before I got promoted out of that fun stuff. And less than five of those events played out exactly as planned. So everything was a challenge. There was always problems to solve, and I really liked that. I like getting my hands dirty and taking care of the musicians too, because you as a musician put a lot of time at home in the practice room rehearsing to make the product as good as possible, and then you hand me over all that art and talent as an engineer to broadcast out to the masses. So I took that responsibility very seriously to make sure I could capture the best performance possible, and I really, really enjoyed that. So making chief wasn't something that I was really striving for. I didn't do a lot of the extra stuff that's really required to make chief these days, growing up in the Air Force. But when I left the career field and went into professional military education, that's when I really kind of turned the corner, because I was doing a job that was about leading people, was about developing airmen, was about the service to others. And that was what really got me excited. And I had some amazing mentors in Europe who basically forced me to become competitive for chief and say, you need to be a chief. The Air Force needs you to be a chief. And so they really pushed me and challenged me and stretched me to do things that weren't very comfortable, but were needed to expand my experience and make me ready to best serve the amazing people I get to work with every day.
Kind of bouncing off of that, in what specific ways would you say that the Air Force has kind of shaped you? You've talked about this process and turning the corner and, you know, realizing kind of the bigger picture of the service, but in what specific ways did being in the Air Force shape you? And do you have any like big lessons learned or aha moments, or was it more of a gradual process?
I don't have an aha moment where it's like, okay, I get it. A lot of it was gradual. I'll be honest, when I was an airman, I did not understand the mission of Air Force bands. It was a great job. I loved it. I loved the people. I loved the work. I loved the experiences we had. So I look through old pictures and I just makes me smile at those memories. But I was kind of, for lack of a better term, clueless about what the mission of the Air Force bands were. I don't think I got good development early on into what we did and why we did it. Maybe we did, maybe I did, but I wasn't really listening if I did. So as I grew in the career field, and especially in the senior NCO realm, I really understood what our mission was. I really understood why it was important. You know, I remember going to the Senior Non-Commissioned Officer Academy, and on day one, we introduce ourselves to the rest of the class. You know, you stand up, you say who you are, you say what your job is. And I stood up and I said what my job was. And the guy sitting next to me, who I'm now good friends with, you know, I said, I'm Dan Kenemore. I'm one of the audio engineers with the Air Force Band at Scott. And he went, oh, gross. I said, okay, talk to me about gross. What do you mean gross? And he was security forces. He had been in for you know, well over 20 years at that time, a senior master sergeant, and you know, knew what he knew.
Yep.
And so talking through my experiences in the band, both home station CONUS in the United States, but also the deployed location, to show the impact of what Air Force bands can actually do to bridge gaps, to make connections with people that no other capability in the Air Force has. By the end of that day, he was sold into Air Force bands. And you fast forward a few weeks in the class, we actually go over to where some of the officers do their training. And it's at Squadron Officer School, and we were in a classroom with some captains who were in their professional military education class. And it wasn't me who got to talk about the band. It was my security forces friend who was so excited about our mission and what we do that he was the one who talked about it on his own to all these captains in the room. So it was really, really cool. So that was the transition from I love what I do, but I don't really get it, to I get it, and it's important that we talk about what we do so that other people outside of our career field understand what we do and why it's important and how it helps them as well.
So currently in the band career field, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that we have to face, and what are some of the biggest rewards that can be had in this career field?
So challenges, we have many. It really depends on your location. You know, whether it's adequate facilities, whether it's adequate funding, whether it's adequate manpower to do your job. As you very well know, in a small unit like you have there at Wright Pat, you know, if you go down, your whole music performance team, it goes down. And so we can't train somebody who's a trumpet player today to be a flute player next week. And other career fields can train somebody, maybe not in a week, but in several months to do a new job. We don't have that. We don't have that ability. On average, airmen coming to the Air Force bands before basic training have 14 years experience in their craft. I mean, that's a lot of experience. How do you transition? So ensuring that we have a solid pipeline of new talent coming in is one of the biggest challenges. Making sure that we are competitive in the industry to bring in that talent, because I tell you what, every time we have an audition, my goal is to hire somebody who is far better than I was, because that just makes us all better. So those are the big challenges that I see in general. Right now, obviously, we have a really big challenge trying to figure out how do we continue to be effective in our outreach, and leave it to the airmen to figure it out. I have been just overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that has been coming out from across the career field. Very, very creative products are being developed regularly, which is great. But I do have that little bit of concern in the back of my head. How long is that going to be sustainable? People are hungry for live music. So how do we get over this pandemic? How do we get through this pandemic to make sure that we are still being active and supporting the overall Air Force mission of, to fly, fight, and win? That's something that we need help at all levels getting over.
So talk to me a little bit. You spoke about you didn't really understand the mission early on, but now you've got, kind of a clear vision and passion for what that is. Can you sum that up? Like, what is it that the bands offer? Not just, the music world, but the Air Force, the nation, the communities in which we live. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, in our tagline is honor, inspire, and connect. And I think those are great words, but if you can put an image to those words, what that means, it'll make a big difference. So I was talking to my wife earlier today, and we were kind of reminiscing about some of the special memories from the career field, from my life in the Air Force bands. And she reminded me of one that is really inspiring to me. And it's when we go out to a community, usually the ones that don't have a military presence at all. But we do know that there are members that have served, that have worn this uniform before us in that community. And the first thing we do at any concert is play the national anthem. And there is almost without exception, somebody who is in a wheelchair, who is a World War II or Korean War veteran, who basically demands that they will stand on their own for that song. And some will wear their veteran hat or a bit of their uniform or their full uniform, and they will salute and stand as straight as they possibly can. And that is really inspiring, not just for me who's wearing the uniform, but you see it in the audience members. There's sometimes some pretty emotional reactions to those kind of things. So seeing how we can honor our veterans who are currently still with us, and then those who don't, is one of the most important things we can do, is to pay final respects to our vets and to our service members. And so those last notes of music that are performed at a funeral or other memorial by our buglers is really important as well. So that's that honor piece. The inspire, we have to get the best and brightest people into our military. As you know, we've just stood up the U.S. Space Force, which is the first space force in the world. And
there'll be a space band.
Right. Maybe there will be a space band. But making sure that we reach out to those people that we need to make our Air Force continue to be the strongest Air Force in the world, and now the Space Force in the world, is going to take some very, very smart people way smarter than me. But it starts in elementary school, and there is no better way than to reach out to those students than with music. And they will remember that. I guarantee you there are people coming out of the Air Force Academy now, graduating, that will have memories of an Air Force band performing in their elementary school. And that planted the seed to get them to put this uniform on. And then connect. Obviously, the connect is the connect to the community, especially the ones that don't understand what we do. And so whether that's helping the community understand why there's loud booms during the day, or there's afterburner sounds at night over their ranch, scaring their animals. Why are we doing that? Helping them understand that we do that. The Air Force bands can go do that in a way that no other Air Force capability can. And then beyond that, across the globe, serving overseas, serving in deployed locations, the power of music is unbelievable. A lot of people see the news, see the media, and they say they see big, mean guys with guns. And you take about 15 minutes of music, and all of a sudden that goes away. We all have stories, we all have families, we all have lives, we all smile. We can connect in ways that we can't otherwise. So those are the ways I see our mission.
Yeah, nicely put. Nicely put with the honor, inspire, connect, fleshing it all out. So often I can, go into the unit and I see the words, oh yeah, that's what we do. But it's wonderful to hear from your perspective, years of experience and perspective of what does that mean and how does that actually happen in the Air Force. So kind of looking back, what would be kind of your top tips? I'm not talking just about bandsmen, but about anybody who's looking to join the Air Force, a new airman or a new bandsman. What would be your top tips of advice for them going forward in their career?
All right, top tips of advice. I should have done a top 10 list or something. Take every opportunity you can. Be ready for every opportunity. The Air Force, in my experience, has all been a lot about timing and being ready for opportunities. There is so much talent in our career field, outside of our career field, so much talent, so many highly skilled, unbelievably smart people. And when those opportunities come to expand your horizons, to develop yourself, to go see other parts of the world, if you don't take it, somebody else will. And whether you love it or maybe not so much love it, those opportunities, they will make you stronger. They will make you better on the other side. And so that would be my top tip: is take advantage of every opportunity that comes your way to make yourself better. Let's see, other tips. This is a family. So I have made some of the best friends of my life in this career field, in this uniform. And that is one of those things I cherish, the relationships with other people that sometimes have been in terms of days and years have been fairly short, but in terms of experience have been lifelong. And we get back together after 10 years or 15 years of being apart, and we are back to 10 years or 15 years ago. So those relationships, taking care of those relationships, nurturing those relationships, however you can. I'm self-admittedly not the best at keeping in touch with people, but technology is great these days with some texts and emails, and just to kind of keep in touch with people. So that would be another tip for making the most of this career.
Yeah, I'd say even more so important during this time when we're not seeing each other. It's been kind of nice in a way to slow down and actually reach out and reconnect with some people.
Yes, absolutely.
For that, and this has been a great opportunity to do that. I don't want to take too much more of your time, but as we kind of wrap it up here, you have any funny stories, memorable events, anything that comes to mind?
Oh, so I have lots of stories, but most of those I can't share in this forum. I have a lot of memorable events that involve people that I care deeply about, that I've gotten to travel the world with. Had the opportunity to perform at some amazing places. Who would have thought I'd get to be performing at Carnegie Hall? Who would have thought I'd play at Summerfest in Milwaukee for a few years in a row, which is the world's largest music festival? Who would have thought I would be playing outside of a combat outpost in Iraq next to a carnival dunk tank while soldiers from another country are doing a baptismal in the dunk tank while the band is playing Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, these kind of experiences happen every day in our career field. It just never know what's going to happen. So those have been some really special memories. But some of the most important memories, meaningful things that I've done, were actually outside of the career field in professional military education, specifically working with the NCO Academy in Europe. And while we were tasked with the education of approximately 1,000 non-commissioned officers every single year at that school, because of where we were vital to helping both our African partner nations and our European partner nations stand up professional development courses and schools for their militaries. People look at us, people look at our military and say, we want to be like you. And so being in that education and development of the NCO Corps, we were able to go into these countries like Romania, like Ghana, Tanzania, Burkina Faso, and literally help them create a professionalized NCO Corps. That they had a great foundation, but they wanted to continue to develop so that they could push those decisions to as low a level as possible, like they see in our force. So those were some of the most memorable things in my career.
Thank you so much for your time, your field. This has been an honor.
No, the honor is mine. Thank you for taking your time. I mean, your time is just as valuable as mine. So I really appreciate it. Really appreciate getting the opportunity to share some of the stories and some of the my perspective with you and whoever ends up watching this. But really appreciate what you do. Continue to do those amazing things, both in the band, musically, and outside. How you are helping project Air Force influence in any way possible. We have a unique capability that nobody else has. So thank you for that.
No, it's an honor.